Hello, everyone. Hello, Ponderers. That's our hashtag,
I'm loving it.
Ponderers.
Ponderers. It's great.
Look who's here with me. I found him by the pond. Kris
Hmm.
is here. Thomas is here. Thomas, you have all your clothes on, and
I
you're
do
by
this
the
time,
pond.
yes. Well, it's the top anyway. Anyway.
Good. That's good stuff. So we got everybody saying hi, and they're all like talking to each other. And thank you. I was worried because people were already commenting. They were afraid that the delay was a problem, but no.
No, I think we're all right. I am out on a farm though, so sometimes the internet is not great, but
That's
it seems to
okay.
be working fine.
That's okay. I live on a farm too, in the
Nice.
woods. Yes. But it's a retired farm, but it's in the
Yeah,
woods. So,
mine is too. It
yeah.
was I grew up on this farm. When we had 8 horses, and that's kind of how I got into all the things that I'm into. And when I took it over a few years ago, it's now retired, and I can't have large animals anymore. It's too much of a ball and chain.
Oh, you know how to ride?
I grew up competitively horseback riding, 3-day eventing, and then I moved
Really?
into modern pentathlon. Mhm.
We need to see Thomas riding around on a horse.
We do. There was just a little bit of it last season, but mostly I had Kyler in front of me, so we weren't really able to do any real riding. Uh,
Yes. I know. And also you fence, or what is the proper term
yeah,
for that?
fencing.
Fence?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So when I grew up here, there's an association for young riders called Pony Club. It's an international association. There's lots of different events throughout the seasons, and one of them is tetrathlon: running, swimming, air pistol shooting, and riding your horse. Right. Well, it's old British, so it was kind of like not military, but of that sort of world and our tradition anyway. And so I love doing that with the local kids. And then there's a regional, and then there's a provincial, and then there's a national level, and there's even
okay.
international competitions of these pony club. And so I would go and do these, and then there was an Olympic sport called modern pentathlon, which you just add in fencing into that. And so I would be doing this, and I was pretty good at it because I had the riding, and I was a swimmer from as a kid. And then I would be meeting these pentathlete Olympians, and they were just such awesome people. And it's a co-ed sport, like both men and women do it at the same
Yes.
time. And so it's just such an amazing community. And I just was like, I want to get involved with this. And this was when I was 15 years old. And so I started training. And by the time I was 18, I won junior nationals, which secured me a spot on the senior national team for the next year. And then I traveled the world while doing university on the senior pentathlon team. And I got into a massive amount of debt because there's no funding for athletes in Canada.
Oh
And
no.
so this is how I got into acting. There was a little ad in the newspaper. It said wanted people with special skills, and I was broke as broke. And I spent my last $500 to get my headshot taken and go to my first audition. And luckily, it was for a period piece kids movie, and they needed someone who could horseback ride and sword fight, and
There you
that's how
go.
I started in this industry.
That's pretty cool. I love it. We have to put people out of their misery because they're like, "But we see Thomas in season 3." They're like, "Well, we know you didn't die, so there's a
Yeah.
possibility, right?"
I believe so. I haven't signed a contract yet, but from what I've heard from the powers that be, that everybody really liked what the 1814 group brought to the
Yes,
show,
we
and
did.
just a different tone, and sort of broadened it. It gave a whole new dimension. Um, and so they're excited to bring them back. I don't know in exactly what capacity, but I'm excited to come back as Thomas because he's a lot of
Mm,
fun.
they're, like, going wild. We were talking behind the stage about
Thank you.
all the teams they have, like, they have Tomcat and Calliot, and then people
Mhm.
argue, and I'm like, "Teams can destroy a fandom, but I understand the passion for both couples, I get it."
Mm.
Cindy says, "Kris, you're a wonderful addition to the cast and hope you're back next season."
Me too, Cindy. Thanks.
Alright, so tell us about how even The Way Home got on your radar.
Well, it's kind of, just typical casting. The producers, the show gets greenlit. The shows are for second season. I got greenlit, and they know they're shooting here in Canada, so it
Mhm.
goes out through the casting agents. The casting agents then connect through to the agents, and if you're within, sort of the tone or the style or the age group, the demographic of the character you get out for it. I wasn't sure about this character that I would be. It just came across when I first read it. It was just 1814 scenes, so I had no idea what the show was, because sometimes they put them out without the real show heading. Most of the time they do, so you don't know what the show is.
Right, right.
And so I thought I was going out for a period piece Canadian show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd done the Tudors and I'd done Vikings, so
Yes.
period piece is very much in my it's one of my favorite things to do. And like I
Cool.
could really, and I leaned into this. I didn't know it was Hallmark, so I went into it the way I would have done Tudors Vikings, which is a little more dramatic, a little
Yes.
the stakes are high.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it took them a while to all agree that that was a flavor that they wanted to bring to the show, because it took 6 weeks or more before they were always like, yeah, no, he's not quite the one. Then 2 weeks later, they'd be like, actually, he's still in the mix. We're sending him tape down to New York. And it's like, okay, great. And I was going away with my family on a vacation to Portugal at the end of August, or middle of August, because my son was already over there. And I'm like, look, they originally wanted to start shooting August 21st, and I was supposed to leave August 17th. I'm like, I got to know if I can do this trip. They're like, you can do the trip. Don't worry. You're good. I'm like, damn it, I didn't get the part, but I'm going to do this trip. And so, of course, the day before I'm supposed to leave, they're like, actually, we want to do a chemistry test. We're still not sure.
Oh, I was
I'm like,
wondering. Okay.
I'm going to Portugal tomorrow. So they were like, well, can we make it work? And so the first 2 days of my Portugal trip was me madly relearning the lines, because I hadn't done the lines in almost 2 months now, and trying to find the right time zone to be able to do it. Thank you very much, Mary. And so, yeah, I was in Portugal doing a Zoom chemistry test with Kyler. And there's a bit of a lag between Portugal and Toronto, but we still managed to like connect with each other to the point where like we both had pins and needles, and I think she was even crying in the scene. She's also an amazingly
She is.
emotional and like connected actor. Like she's a delight to work with. But we both, after that, we get looking through the Zoom and just like, that was really good, I think. And it was just like, thank you. I'm going to go to dinner now, because it was, Portugal dinner time. I had friends and family waiting for me. And I walked to the dinner. I bought a bottle of champagne. I'm like, I don't care whether I get that or not. Just working with Kyler and we had such a good chemistry test that I was just like, I don't care if I get it or not. It was worth it just to do those 3 scenes with her from Portugal. Yeah.
But you got it. And you know what I find funny is chemistry, like virtually, not in person. That's a little hard. I think they do everything that way now.
But it can still
It works.
manifest. It's like
Yeah.
when you even think about what we do, like it's crazy that we get emotionally responded about something that was recorded months ago, digitally compressed, then sent out over the airwaves, and still affects us when we're like watching it. It's
I
an
know.
amazing alchemy that happens through
I
all
know.
of this.
It is. Well, just like reading a book, when you've got a really good writer, you get all emotional.
Mhm.
You're sitting there by yourself, either laughing out loud or crying. And this makes it even better because we can visually see it and
Mhm.
almost feel like we can smell it and we hear it. So it makes sense. It makes sense. It's good storytelling. They are those writers, the showrunner, that team, they're amazing. I
A
mean,
great group. Yeah.
they really are. They really have the audience like sitting on the edge of their seat. And I cannot tell you how many times I get wowed by things. I'm like, oh my
Oh,
gosh.
perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I
So I
hope they
mean,
watch this, because that'd be great for them to know.
they will. They see stuff. Everybody spies on things, They watch.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
sure they're like, is Kris going to see anything that's too risque?
Yes. Too risque. And is Roxanne going to ask the wrong questions and nobody can come back? I get it. I get it. But I won't. We won't. We'll be good. So, okay, you've got your role. You're Thomas. Did you know your name was Thomas Coyle by this point? Did you know any history, backstory? Did you have to make it up in your mind? Did you know you're a good guy, bad guy? Share what you can.
Yeah, we didn't know 100%, but as
Okay.
soon as I showed up, you're quickly taking meetings, and you're trying to figure out what kind of a seasonal arc they want you to give. So this is where the balance between what what a showrunner wants to share with the
Right.
actor versus what they don't. There's different philosophies, right? Some showrunners like, I'm going to tell you everything up front so you can plan it.
Right. Right.
Some people are like, no, I want to save some surprises so that you may
Yes.
not know how to react.
Yes.
And so this team is kind of a bit of a mix of both. Sometimes they'll share if they are like, okay, I think you actually need to know, and sometimes they don't. And it's completely personal to each show running team. But luckily, Alex, who I mostly worked with, Alex is the daughter of the Heather Alex combo. We'd known each other from another show. She wrote on a show I did called Departure. It's a not CBC.
We're familiar with it. We have a lot of people who watch
Yeah, it's
all kinds
core,
of
so it's
things.
global here, and then
Yeah.
I think in the States it's Universal Peacock.
Yes. You
Um,
got it.
so she had written on that, so we had a bit of a relationship. So we knew we could talk, and so I got a bit of a through line of him, and luckily I was entrusted with certain things that I couldn't tell the other cast. So I was in a
Oh.
bit of the secret fold for a little bit,
Oh.
which is an interesting, because it actually gives your character a little bit of the empowerment that Thomas would have needed, because he knew things that nobody else did.
It's
Right?
true. It's true.
That's all of that sort of where he was, almost all those episodes where he had the wheels turning at the end, was
Mhm.
because he knew what Jacob was doing. He had set it up. How was he going to have to make this work with Cyrus? How was he going to protect Jacob without Susanna knowing it? What is Kyler? What is Kat's position in this? Who is this Cat? You
Mhm.
witch. Who knows,
I
right?
love that. I love that line when you said to her, when you were here, you are laying in the woods rolling around, and she said your name, and you go, "Yes, witch." That was hilarious.
That's a good one. Um,
That was
yeah, and
fun.
again, like, how do you play that, right? So the whole trick with Thomas for me was I had to play it for real, because he does live in the 1814. Same with Susanna. Like, I think that was kind of the charm of the 1814 team, is that they had to play it all for real in high stakes, because in 1814 you can get killed by a cold or a neighbor or a
Yes.
bear or anything random. Like, life is precarious.
It's not like now. Yes, I
No,
love that.
exactly.
That made sense too when you said that and you were a bit angry. I was like, "Yes, that's right. Like, get off your high horse a little bit, Cat." You knocked her down, which to us when we're watching it, it seems like Thomas is drawn to her because she is different and fierce,
Hmm.
and then she's drawn to him because he's mysterious and but good and handsome, and she's like, "Oh my gosh," so we loved it. We loved it. That's how it was. And there was a lot of tension in the buildup, because I was like, if they don't kiss at some point, we're gonna have some like riots on our hands here with the fans.
Well, we were supposed to kiss in an earlier episode, but I think the showrunners made a very good choice about pushing
Yes.
that all the way later.
Yes. I'm
Um,
surprised.
because yeah, we needed to earn it. We needed it. We need
Yes.
to raise the stakes. You know.
Kathy, I usually have a partner. She and I are on, but she's got a business meeting. So we were usually together and we host. And when we were watching and we were talking, episode was finished and we were collecting our thoughts and our notes. She's like, "What was that beach scene? It was like from here to eternity." We were dying. And I'm like, "I think they should have kissed there, but they didn't. They're gonna kiss later. It's gonna be a good kiss." And it was like, "Oh, I thought you needed to cool off."
Yeah.
Now now you
I think your instinct was right. I think that's where the kiss was originally written. If I may be wrong, but
yeah, but
mhm.
now, okay, you're in the people love behind the scenes stories. So in that particular scene, since I brought it up, like how long were you shooting? What time of the year was it? Because I know they start and then
Mhm.
when it starts, it gets cold. I
It
mean,
was cold. It was cold.
mm,
But the lake, is such a large body of water that it cools down a lot slower. So
mm,
strangely enough, the water was actually warmer than the air.
I
Not
like
by
that.
much, but
Yeah, yeah.
um, I think it was, well, we're in Celsius up here, so I think it was pretty chilly. It was about 15 degrees, 14, no, 12 degrees. which is times 3.
You're figuring out the
It's
math
like
or what did I?
or low 60s,
Yeah, I was gonna say 60s for us.
high,
Yeah.
high 50s. But it
That's
was
okay.
chilly. But like we got really lucky with that day because the atmosphere, the wind was whipping. Like it was almost a stormy day, and the waves were rolling. You're talking about the one where I carry her out, right?
Yep.
That one, yeah.
Yes.
So that weather, at first we were like, oh god, this is gonna be how, but as soon as this gets caught in the frame and the hair is flying and the emotions are high, we having to yell at each other just because to
Mhm.
hear each other over the wind. um it added like a real another layer, another element to it that you really can't count on, but we were very fortunate to have it here.
They
um
captured it.
and we were really worried that we were going to have to ADRs when you record the audio
Mhm.
afterwards if it can't be heard properly. And we were sure that with all the wind and the waves that we would have to ADR that entire scene, which would have been, it's very challenging to replicate that kind of emotionality with those kind of environments
True.
in a sound room. But luckily, our sound team and our production team were managed to salvage most of it. Like 90% of that is original,
Good.
um, and just let it play. Which honestly, Kyler and I were both just thrilled with, and I think it played fantastically. I love that scene.
It's quite we a lot of people love that scene. It was quite dramatic. Now that when Kat gets to meet Thomas and you're in the pond, you're really in that real pond. I mean, we say
Mhm.
that to everybody, like, we had David on, he's young Elliot. We're like,
Mhm.
"You really jumped in that pond?" He goes, "Yes, leeches and all. It's a fun pond," he says to me. So you're really in that pond. Probably doesn't phase you because, you're an outdoorsy guy, but I find that pond to be kind of gross. Do they do anything to it to not
No,
make
no,
it so
no. It's natural. There's a couple of rocks that you can stand on, and I think they had put in one more rock for me because I had to stand sort of, and it had to be strategic waist depth, right?
Yes, yes,
So I
yes.
did have skin colored tights on,
Yeah.
um, and they were rolled down as far as was completely permissible. And we just tried to let the water sort of blur what
Right,
be
right.
there. Um, but the standing and talking, and that water was cold at that point. That was past mid-October, and I think they told me that the water was 5 degrees that morning,
Oh gosh.
which is it's chilly. But
Yes.
I don't know. We got through it, and the team was really great. They managed, they worked the shots around the coldness. They were like, they basically shot me out getting out, like all those were all just done up front, and then I could kind of get fake dry and then just pretend like I was putting my clothes
Right,
on
right,
and
right,
the
right.
shirt and all that kind of jazz.
Yes.
So they comment, otherwise, like, I would just be talking like this,
And it was
just
nothing
can't
like
get a
that.
scene across like this. It can't be sexy romantic.
And it was nothing like that. I mean, we got a lot from that scene.
Thank you, Rana.
I know. They first time they get to see each other, then also the paintbrushes fall out of
Oops.
the that's okay, out of the knapsack. And then that line when she looks, you turn around and you look back at her and you say, I know much better without clothes. I'm like, is that scripted or did you come up with that?
No, that was actually scripted. They did a great job. They like, this was one of our audition scenes that we did with that chemistry test. And yeah, it was actually a lot bigger originally.
Wow.
There was a whole extra page of us bantering back and forth a bit, but when it comes time to shoot, often it's just like, oh my god, we can't have a 3.5 minute long scene of some dude in the water for 3 minutes. And thank you, you couldn't pick that temperature. I would have gone
I know.
hypothermic.
I
Um,
think what they cut though and how they did it was just perfect because it left us wanting more. Do you know what I mean? You didn't give it
mhm.
to us all at once. So as a
Yeah,
viewer,
uh,
we appreciated it.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're really terrific at that. They're great writers, and they're also great at editing themselves and pulling back.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And then there is it episode, I think 7, where you're all in the wood. Now those woods are the same exact woods that were around the actual pond, or was it shot somewhere else?
Some of them were. So
Okay.
when we're running through the woods with the torches chasing the witch,
Yes.
that's right beside the pond.
Mm.
And we were running through, and then I ran up onto the water, grabbed the torch, and was looking to where she had gone.
Mhm.
But that was episode 6, I think, and then
Yeah, that was the one where,
where
she
we're
was,
in, yeah.
yeah, running, yeah. I'm sorry, keep
Um,
going.
no, I'm seeing these
Oh, it's
comments every
just
once.
I don't want it when
Thanks,
they go
Janice.
by so fast. Jan was saying, I have to say it is difficult picking out a favorite scene with
That's a
Thomas so
fantastic
Halden.
last name, Greatrix.
I know. Does she have a great last name? I know Jan, actually. We got to be friends. She's a great person.
Well, thank you very much. And we had a Thomas was very lucky with, and I was very lucky because he had so many good scenes. Um, starting from right with out in the beginning with Cyrus out by the bonfire. Um,
Yes.
even in the beginning, her waking up and
Yes, shot
Suzanne
and
and I are out
carrying
of
through.
focus, and it's just
Yeah,
you don't really know what's going on. Like,
yeah.
keep her quiet. I remember some of the crew coming up to me afterwards going, "Okay, okay, this is gonna be different." I guess I didn't say that very hallmarky. It's like,
No, it's not.
keep her quiet, or
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do something.
Yes, it's true. You know what? None of it is traditional Hallmark. It wasn't written. We know that for Hallmark. We know the story behind it. But I think that's why so many people are just falling in love with it because it's so good. It's just
Well, it has those textures which are also heartwarming, but this show in
yes.
particular has really sort of blown out the universe and the brand into some of the more contemporary dramatic um, styles and content, and I think that's people are ready for it.
We are. There's when at the end of season 1, well, the beginning of season 1 and the end of season 1 is the same type of scene where the White Witch is running through the
Hmm.
woods, and we know it's 1814 because it tells us that. Say it's 1814, pretty sure it's 1814, not 1812. I'm pretty sure it says 1814. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You know what time frame I mean. So then at the end, we finally get to see her face. Now they recreate that scene
Hmm.
again, and it's in season um 2 with you in it. Did you have to watch the
Hmm.
scene,
Yeah.
okay, to see
They
because
had it all prepared. They're terrific.
okay,
Grant, who directed that episode, they had already built the scene that they wanted to shoot with pulls from the first season, and they were like, okay, so now, and it would be a black screen, and he'd be like, okay, this is where we're going to do this moment, and it was already all cut
right,
out.
cool,
Um, and so we were just literally putting pieces
putting
of the
things in.
puzzle in.
Makes sense, and I love it because people went back and then analyzed it to try to find differences and things that were the same. You know how people are.
For
They're
sure.
pondering, like, they're
Yeah.
constantly
This
watching,
is
analyzing because they love it so much, and it gives them an excuse to watch the same scene, like, 14 times,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
do. They
It's a
do.
great name for this group, the Ponderers.
Yes, yes.
Donna, did the writers realize your character would catch on with? Of course not. But
Tell that
um,
story to us.
I don't know if there is a story, but I just think that as we started moving on, it wasn't so because there was no fans able to see it at that point. It was
Mhm.
just internally what was resonating and what was working with Kyler. I'm sure Kyler's an exec producer on it, and she would have feedback and be like, "No, we can definitely build on this." But also, I just think, I mean, the fans are responding to something that you know the showrunners and producers are people too, and they'll be like, "Oh, this is working. Let's invest a bit more in
Mhm.
there."
Mhm.
So. Um, I think as it just kept going along, they were able to lean into it more, but I don't think they actually had to create too much more story. I think the story was already there, or the character arc. I don't know. You'd have to ask them how much as it moved along did they manipulate because of how they were watching it develop in real time. I'm not sure.
Mm. I I, um, I don't know, I think and to me as a viewer, we don't realize if it was or if it wasn't. For us, it feels like it was always meant to be that you would stay around. And it surprised us because in our head, we thought that the character was going to die. But then as it went on a little bit more, and I'm like, if they don't kiss, I'm going to be so angry. But then the way the death scene went, Kathy wrote to me and said, he's not dead. I'm like, oh my God, then he gets to come back, and it was funny. And everybody's like, he's not dead. He's not dead. Now, I loved how they showed the vest. Tell us a little bit about that costume. Like, exactly what was that life-saving vest supposed to be?
Well, it came from some of his rapscallion dealings along the way, that he had gotten an ornate piece of a chess piece from probably, we actually cut it in the style of a French breastplate.
Mm-hmm.
So it came from like an earlier coureur de bois, or a French soldier back in the 1500s,
Yes.
1600s. And that's why it was antiquified. It was distressed.
Yes. Yes.
But funny story, talking about what showrunners will reveal and what they won't,
Right.
is I was told that my character was going to die. So,
Mhm.
and this was early. This was like episode 3. I think Alex was like, well, this is one of the things they're like, I'm going to tell you something that you can't tell other people. And it was like, Thomas isn't going to make it. And I was like, a little sad. But I was like, hey, doing a great job. Let's have a great season. Let's
Mhm.
go. And so they actually pulled a fast one on me too, because you want Thomas to really feel like he is going to sacrifice himself. That's the sort of resonance you want the character to put out into
Mhm.
the audience and into the world. And do you have to practice coin flipping on it? Yes, I did. I'll tell you that story in a second.
Okay.
So yeah, when I found out that I wasn't going to die, it was actually a very lovely moment.
It
And
was.
so we'd gotten measured for this chest. It was a custom made sort of chest plate for me. It wasn't out of full steel. It was actually, I think, laser printed. They have amazing laser printing technology now. And then our art department dressed it up beautifully. They had the embedded bullet already in it, so it was
Mhm.
just literally the reveal.
Oh, wow.
Um, and yeah, right at the end. So that was a really nice treat.
That was good. We loved it. I love when Jacob comes out and he says to her that says to Kyle, well, says to Kat, Thomas is alive. And she's like, Thomas is alive. But she has to park that away from in her head while the rest of us are going, ah, because they're walking him into the house to see his mother, or so we think. We know that's where it ends, but that's what we're
Absolutely.
anticipating. Another big thing that people talk about costume wise are the coins, because you constantly had them in your hand. And I knew
Hmm.
it had to mean something because it was always, always.
Hmm.
So people are like, are there any more coins left? Did he have to practice with those coins? What do they mean? They got 52 questions. Tell
So
me again.
the origin story of the coin is actually our show's fantastic line producer, John
Uh-huh.
Calvert. And it's one of his career things. He has 2 big coins in his pocket. And
Oh,
it's just the kind of thing that he does. And sometimes he jangs them in the pocket. But it becomes psychosomatic with the crew, that because when the line producer usually shows up, that means like, all right, we're doing something serious, or we're behind the time,
uh-huh.
or there's stakes are high
Yes.
usually when the line
Yes.
producer shows up. And so that sound would get people like, oh, John's here, better step fast, or okay, what's happening that's important. And so our amazing writers just picked up on that in season 1, and were like, they love John, as we all do. He's a fantastic producer who's been in this industry more years than he probably care to admit. But he is a terrific fella, and they wanted to do homage to him, and so they brought that along with Thomas. And it was funny, on my first day of filming, I was clanking coins and practicing, because I had to,
Yeah.
like, okay, how do I do this? And as I stopped, I heard another clanking of coins. And I had heard tell that there was the man, Mr.
Hmm.
Calvert. And so John and I had a great chat, and we shared coins, and we kind of compared flip notes. And And from then on, we had a terrific friendship, and he coached me a few times. But really, it was, and they tied it in lovely. One as the homage to John, but also as a sound device to bring, oh, this is was Thomas was here, or he is in the background or something. And then the chains and
Hmm.
the lighthouse. No, they were brilliant with the coins, and I'm sure Thomas will find another pair of coins in season 3 or something. Maybe it'll be bullets this time. Maybe he'll just be a knife juggler. Who knows?
A knife. Oh dear Lord. Speaking of bullets and your gun that you have with you all the time, um, there's a gun that makes it into the Goodwin house, and when they sell the house, Kat buys it and has it in the her office at the newspaper.
Mhm.
Is that your gun or is that Cyrus's gun?
You know what's funny? I think there was a bit of confusion even when we shot it because
Yes.
they weren't sure whose gun it was supposed to
Okay.
be, and I can't remember how it got rectified. Whether it's, I think it's Cyrus's gun. I'm pretty
Yes,
sure
because it
it's
looks
Cyrus.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Cyrus's gun.
Yeah, the color looks different and whatnot. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So they had their eye on that. What's this? What did Cheryl say? It's so cool to see you with your humor, smiling, etc. Aside from being so
Mhm.
serious in your role, which is wonderful. But I
Thanks,
also
sir.
saw
Sure.
some humor because you had some great funny lines. Like I said before, when you're all side by side in the woods, rolling around in the wet leaves, and she says who she is, and then say who you think she is, and then when she says your name, you're like, yes, which that still cracks me up. Those little things like you don't get right away sometimes.
Mhm.
You have to go back to pay attention because there's like so much going on. But I
Yeah.
love the dialogue between
We
you
had
two.
a great time. Kyler and I had a blast in that scene. We just really had to be careful with that scene because we were coming out of, Jacob on his deathbed. But that scene needed some levity. It needed to
Yeah,
be, a bit It needed to have a bit of a setup, right?
yeah.
So we came out, emotional, and then with a couple cuts in between, we luckily
Mhm.
had enough space to bridge it emotionally like that up to that place where we end up, guess which, and
Yeah,
and it gets a little funny at the end,
yeah, yeah.
which was great because can't always be heavy.
Did you do all of those scenes at the same time? Like all the different, like the running through the Goodwin house. I love that. We heard we had Watson Rose on, and she was
Mm.
sharing a lot of what went down. Like it was must have been so much fun. Well, she said it was fun where they were doing like the dance and running in their bare feet, and it was kind of gross too. But all of that was everything together, or
No, no,
no?
there was very different locations over the span of a month.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, we had to. It would go back and forth, and the 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 catacombs were a bit of disaster because they were under an old house
Yes.
in or some sort of a government building that went back to like 1700s, that was still in Hamilton, which is a city an hour and a half that away. We filmed the farm an hour and a half this way,
Yes.
and we went in those catacombs and we all got gassed out because there was no ventilation, and we
Oh
had all these not like just flame
yes.
braziers.
Yes.
Brazier is what you wear, and a brazier is what you burn, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Thank you.
And you can burn braziers. Some people did that too
You
before.
probably could. Not while they're on you, hopefully. Um, but yeah, so we got smoked out of there, and we couldn't actually continue the scene because
Oh,
the
wow.
whole crew was suffering. They had to
Yeah.
get ventilator masks, and it was just a disaster. So they had to actually rebuild an entire set in studio to finish that, which we shot 3 episodes later. Actually, it might have even been the last, because that scene kept getting juggled, or one of those last scenes that was supposed to take place in the catacombs kept getting pushed until one of them ended up being the last scene we actually shot of the entire episode of the entire season. So yeah, sometimes that happens in shooting. You're just kind of location situational, and you just have to kind of try to remember and rebuild it. That's like filmmaking is a lot like puzzle piecing. you don't always know what the puzzle
Right,
piece you
right,
have is. You kind
right.
of making up as you go.
Right. There's a favorite quote. I see them mentioning it, and I don't remember it word for word. You might, but it was about a part when you say that you have a piece of my heart, or something like that. You
Mhm.
know, that little emotional scene. What is it exactly? Do you remember it that they say to each other? Someone, Kris, Kris is on here. Kris, you know what I'm talking about. So type it in the comments so I can put it across. It went past so fast I don't have it, but everybody swoons over that
Yeah, yeah.
line. And I'm
And
like, that's that Tomcat stuff coming out. Some people were saying, how would you feel if you found out that Thomas, we're not asking you to answer if you can or not, but how would you feel if you found out that Thomas could time travel to the future? Because right now, no one can go to the future. What do
I
you
think
think?
it would be a blast. I think that Thomas in some future era would be a hilarious character to bring
Yes.
forward because he'd still be so like
Yes.
arrogant and just like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he just wouldn't understand what was going on.
He
I
would.
think it could play for a lot of humor and a lot of good situations.
I think it would. It would, and I feel like that's going to happen to Jacob too, even though he's from that time
Yeah,
frame. He's,
absolutely.
yeah, being
Absolutely. I know
cast, so.
Jacob totally. Yeah.
Mary says, "Would you allow me to carry a piece of your heart in mine?" That's what you say. They
Yeah.
love that. That
It
line is
was a
so.
great line. We
Um,
uh we were massaging it on the day. I remember there was an earlier iteration of it that had to do with because I believe in the beginning he's referring to Jacob. But anyway, we this is again where it's amazing to work with the writers. They're so open minded, but also they can see nuance, and we figured out a way of changing that scene that really made it. Because at first it read very much like Thomas was talking about himself, and I didn't think that that was
mm,
right. I think he should have been talking about Jacob, and so
mhm.
we kind of change it. And then at the end, can I have carry a piece of your heart in mine?
Oh,
But it wasn't about his heart. Yeah. Anyway,
it's okay. Barbara is saying, I would love Elliot and Thomas to meet. Oh boy.
absolutely, it would be a blast. So Evan and I, on that strange scene during the festival where
Yes.
there's she thinks she sees Suzanne
Yes.
and then she
Yes.
turns around and she sees Thomas.
Mhm.
That was the first day that Evan and I actually hung out on set together. And yeah, it was it was interesting because he didn't quite know where it was gonna go, but he was also like, okay, who's this new guy? I have no clue about what's going on in that new world.
I
So
know. I love it.
um
I love it. You'll have a duel. No. No,
yeah,
no, no,
yeah.
no. Out on
We'll
the
have a
beach.
thumb wrestle. No,
Okay,
we'll
a thumb
he'll
wrestle.
introduce me to Nintendo and it'll be a
Yes.
Nintendo off and I'll
Yes.
just
Yeah.
smash it with my sword.
Oh gosh. Oh, that would be funny actually. Like Cheryl says, yes, we did talk about this. Chris and I was telling him about the fan page. It's 22,000 plus growing, and we started off with like 10. So
It's amazing.
it grows.
Congratulations, guys. This is a and thank you for all being on there in the pond with us along for the journey.
Yes. Yes, we're having a good time. So as we're getting close to wrapping up, give me some of your faves. Like, do you have like a favorite scene, a favorite line, a favorite anything? Something
We
that
had
stands out.
so many good moments with all of us. Like honestly, the 1814 shoot was like its own other little movie on the side.
Mhm.
And we were all on this one location up in the country, close to where I lived, strangely enough,
Cool.
um, which was amazing.
That works
um,
out.
yeah, so whether it's when we go to the jail, like that whole night was in the beginning, and like
Mhm.
the fellow who opens the door, the nameless guy, was actually our second AD,
Oh,
Lauren,
that's
who's a
funny.
fantastic. We all love him. He's a big 6'4" gentle giant,
Uh,
and we just started calling him Nigel. Hello, Nigel. Anything in the jailhouse tonight, Nigel? Or Nevin, I can't remember. I think it was Nigel. But like even like a moment like that that doesn't read huge on the screen, we had a blast shooting. Or I mean, the pond, anything that was on the water was amazing. Even just the little scenes in the cabin with the whole crew there, like when Jacob, when they first cast Jacob, first of all, or Spencer as Jacob, I was just like, holy crap, because I saw the pictures of them side by side.
Yes,
It's
yes,
uncanny how much they look
yes,
alike.
they do a great job of that. I
It's
know.
amazing.
So if we could
Um,
get to see a young, Thomas, we're gonna have to see who would play you as a young guy. I don't know that that's
I don't know if there's a point in having young Thomas. Some
just kidding.
scrawny, buck-toothed blonde kid. I
Oh,
don't know.
no. No, 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 no.
I don't think young Thomas is sexy Thomas. Young Kris certainly wasn't sexy. Was I a fan? I didn't know the show beforehand. No. Hallmark is a tough channel to get up here. It's only under certain sort of streaming services, and I didn't subscribe to one of them, so I didn't know about the show beforehand.
Okay. That's so funny to me. I would want to, well, I guess because of it's rural, it's more woodsy, but I would want to be Hallmark to be able to be everywhere in Canada. I mean, there's so many Canadian actors and it's like
Yeah, I think it's on the
producers,
W
writers.
network up here, and
Yeah,
I don't have cable anymore because I just mostly do streaming services. So
right. Yes, that's true. A
that's
lot of people.
why I missed out on it.
Right. Now, I wanted to ask you about your social media. I know you have your official Instagram account, but there
Hmm.
is because we've had several Chris's try to join our fan group, but we knew they weren't you, and we got rid of them. But do you have a Facebook fan page?
There is. When I was doing Lost Girl a decade ago, the
Okay.
Lost Girl group started one, and I think that's the one that's still active.
Okay.
Um,
And that's a real
it
one.
would
Like,
just be, yeah, but I'm not. I mean, I gave them my blessing to go ahead and do it, but
oh, okay.
I don't have my own. My Instagram is really where I do my own social promotions.
Which is a good thing to know because, when it's official, there are different rules, so
Mm,
then people know that they can because you have to have a big part in it for litigation reasons, whatever. So we
mm,
know that it's safe, that there's not gonna be any spamming or anything, and
right.
I know, like, we try our best to make sure we keep it a safe space, so that's why I was asking,
That's great. Yeah.
because some people were asking me, and I'm like, "I don't know, I'm not privy
Yeah.
to that, but we'll
I
ask you."
I I don't know either in that case. Because I am on it as an administrator, I guess, but I haven't looked at it in years. I kind of leave that world to,
To them?
yeah.
Okay. All right, that's cool to know. I think I know which one it is. So, if anyone asks, I will direct them to that page, but with the understanding that you're not really
Yeah,
running it. It's whoever the
yeah.
other people are as admins.
Really, the Instagram is where, like, when I post on there, then I'll sometimes see the comments, and you know
Yeah.
that's where I do most of my interaction.
I think I'm just looking to see if there was a question that I missed. I know some people yes, Roxy, he said it was cold. We talked about that. Remember? He was shivering.
It was cold. It was cold.
It was cold. I don't know who's tuning in at what time, so sometimes they
But
see
I
that.
have a pool here that in the fall I don't heat and I let it go down because I like to cold plunge. So I was kind of used to it. So
My goodness. All right, there's so many fun little things. What's this one? As we say goodbye. Kris, you're seriously a joy. So happy I caught this in
thank you.
real time.
Me too. Thanks for being here with us. And sorry I couldn't do it at night. I have training. I have fencing.
Yes, you do. I was wondering if that's what it was. I know you were busy, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if he has his fencing because I was watching
Yeah.
on your
Yeah.
Instagram account.
And there's a tournament coming up. So I'm
Oh,
trying to been dealing with a bit of an injury. So it's just kind of like,
no.
it's just feet.
So I
Feet are a
I
pain in
get
the
it.
foot.
So, not that we don't want you to come back because we do, but you know how to fence and you know how to ride a horse and you can have what, by the way, tell us about your accent on the show. We forgot to address that.
Oh,
It's like a very, what are you, is Thomas English, Canadian, but English because he's in Canada at that time, American?
yeah. Yeah. I would say, I mean, we didn't really break it down, but it was, we just assumed he was British, either born and then came over to Canada at
Yes.
some
Yeah.
point with one of the expeditions, or was maybe raised in Canada with British parents and just,
Right.
you pick up the accent.
Sure.
It's definitely not a specific British accent. It's kind
Mhm.
of, it's a bit of a dirty accent, which is what I
Yes.
like about it. And you can kind of
Yes.
mix it around and play with it. It's definitely not high RP. It's not like we're going to
No.
Oxfordshire to breed a
No.
dynasty.
No.
But I do love accents. I use them in as many roles as I can, because it gives you a real stepping stone into a character. And I happened to find this one for Thomas, and they let me run with it, which
I
I'm
love
very
it.
grateful for.
Now, back to what led me to it was horse riding, fencing, the accent. What about Bridgerton? What about you being casted for Bridgerton? I want to see you dancing at one of the balls. Well, you turned me off. Come back. Just,
So I had to cancel. There we go. Um,
it
yeah,
turned
it would be
black. You didn't
great.
like my Bridgerton question?
Oh, hold on. I think I lost your.
No, no, you're here. You're here.
Where did it go? Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
lost you. Somehow
It's
it's now
okay.
talking to my phone or something like that.
That's all right. But you're here and I was teasing. So
I'm reading lips.
all right.
Why can't I hear you? I think we
Oh,
might have to call it on that route
yes.
then.
All right. We are. Bye.
Thank you all very much.
You're
I'm
welcome.
sorry to cut it short like this, but technology sucks. I'm going back to 1814. I'm just going to get on my horse and then have sword fight. Hopefully, with not someone would care about and kill them.
No.
Definitely not Elliot. Okay, guys, I'm not going to sword fight with a poor modern man. I mean,
Got
it'd just
you.
be too much of a disadvantage for the poor fella. Anyway,
Bye.
lovely to meet you all.
Bye-bye. All right, friends. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Yes, this was fun. And some of you gave up your lunch hour to be here, which was nice. Okay, if you tuned in, I saw there were a few people that were asking about the fan page. It's called the Way Home fan page, and we have 20. I'm telling you the number because there are others that have the same name, but we have 22K as our membership. So that might help distinguish one from the other. I don't think there's any other fan page that has that number. So I hope we answered as many questions as we could. If you still comment later, I might be able to answer some of your questions. I'm not sure, but this has been fun. All right, I'll see you at the pond.